Joining me now, Sid Wilson, who is Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees for Bergen Community College, and former Assemblyman and gubernatorial candidate Richard Merkt. Welcome to the show to both of you.
Thanks, great to be here.
Now, with local school districts forced to use their reserve surplus funds, how could it affect schools throughout the state for the rest of the year?
Well, one of the concerns that we have is that, this is a fiscal year that's actually ending in June. And these cuts are immediate cuts. We're not talking about cuts that are going to be in place effective the next fiscal year. And, this is going to have a major impact on services in terms of how we educate our children. And in the end, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what are we doing to prepare our children, even in this environment, so that they can be competitive in a global environment? And these cuts, I think, are going to make us less competitive than we will if we keep these services now. And so, and at Bergen Community College, where I'm on the Board of Trustees, our job is to help retrain many people who are out of work and many who are preparing for the next generation of services.
And for next year?
Yes.
What about the cuts for next year?
It's going to be even worse because we're talking almost 7% cuts this year. This is this coming year. So that tells us that we could be looking at anywhere from 10 to 15 or even more. Those are huge cuts. And I think at a time when we need to make education our top priority, because I don't think there's a single parent out there who will tell you to cut our children first, then cut me second.
Are states being punished for having a surplus?
No, I really don't think so. I mean, I understand Sid's concerns, and I think that certainly we all have appreciation for the difficulties the situation creates. But look at it from the governor's viewpoint. The reality is he just comes into office. He recognizes a problem of a $2.2 billion shortfall in the state budget. And by law, he is required to close that in just 4 months. That is an awesome task. And he has a lot on his plate. And frankly, he has to make some difficult decisions. And to say that these decisions will not hurt, or in some cases will not cause some difficulty, is unrealistic. The real problem is that these decisions on the budget were made back roughly last June. Different legislature, different governor, and the assumptions they made regarding revenue have turned out to be quite far off the mark. So now the new governor and the new legislature have to deal with that particular problem. And I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I've been a legislator. I know what the problem can be.
So are we going to see some local municipalities begin to charge more in property taxes to make up for some of those deficits that don't come, in other words, the money not coming from the state?
I think that is a possibility, that may occur in some cases, but I would also say that the immediate effect is it's going to reduce the surplus. What it hopefully will do is also inspire communities and school boards to be more efficient in terms of how they do their budgeting going forward. They're going to have to be more efficient. I don't think the question was just let's push it down to the communities. I don't think that was really the objective. I think the fact is this governor was he's looking down the barrel, 2 barrels of a very difficult situation, and he said, look, we have to balance the budget. And that's his first job. He has to make income and spending balance at the end of the year.
Right. So how can you be more efficient?
Well, the thing is that this is what's so important about this, because yes, the state has to balance its books, and yes, it's a constitutionality that has to be done, but there are multiple areas within the budget that can also be addressed, and I think that when you're making these kinds of cuts that are going to have an immediate impact on our children and ultimately college students, where they may have to face possibly higher tuition and higher property taxes. And because of the fact that in many cases some of these surpluses were going to be used in anticipation that the next budget was going to be tougher, they were now planning for the next fiscal year so that it wouldn't be so tough the following year. But now with the request to tap into those surpluses, now it means that we're going to be bracing for what I think will be a very difficult fiscal year beginning July 1st.
Acting Education Commissioner Brett Schundler has talked about the possibility of some 15% for next year in terms of cuts. So what are you talking about here? I mean, what kind of help and where's it going to come from?
Well, again, the reality is that New Jersey and its local communities, the bulk of what we spend actually goes for education. And if the state is short of money, and it really is short of money, and if we're not able to increase taxes significantly, and I don't think we are, then the alternative has to be that all phases of state government and local government are going to have to do with less. That's the real message here.
Layoffs?
Guess what? It may be part of it. I mean, I think that it has to be a rational process that has to get worked through. I think the governor has to work with the legislature to try to come up with the most reasonable program, first to deal with the current budget deficit and close that, and then secondly to craft a budget for fiscal year 2011 that is fair in terms of the pain that's going to be spread.
Right, final thoughts.
Yeah, but one thing that's also important to understand is that these cuts actually are having a greater impact on poorer districts. And, you know, if you're in a district where, whether it's in Patterson or Newark or even in Garfield and Bergen County, you know, if you look at how the cuts are taking place, more of that money is coming from the poor districts at a time when they need it the most.
The ones who've already been hurt are just going to hurt more.
And it's going to hurt even more. And these are the children that often come to our colleges, and we need to prepare them to get educated. So, we are gravely concerned about the fact that that poor districts are getting impacted more than wealthier districts.
Well, Sid may be right about that, but I would also have to point out the fact that when you have the 30 Abbott districts getting 60% of all state aid to education, obviously when there's a reduction, they're going to take more of a hit proportionately because they were already getting nearly 2/3 of the aid in the first place.
Thank you both for joining us.